Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and Jed Horton. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here, because the ThunderCast is on the loose.
Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. As you can see, it is not Russ Livingood and Jed Horton, or if you're listening, it is not Russ Livingood and Jed Horton. It's KD Hudnall and Jed Horton bringing you the 5 things in around the herd this week. It's really cool to be sitting in for Russ and getting to do a podcast. This probably is this the first time that you and I have, just the two of us, have done a show together?
Yeah, man. It's I think this is it. This is the inaugural episode of Katie and Jed.
Jeez.
So, man, I'm really excited. Looking forward to it, man. I know you and I talk a lot off screen, obviously, since we're not on screen often together. But man, we talk a lot off screen, man. It's great to actually be on the show and together with you, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Like 200 and some episodes, and this is the first time that we're gonna do an episode together. Pretty cool. So sit back, relax, everybody, and listen to the ThunderCast in a whole new way. You can, of course, find us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. Listen to the show anywhere you like to listen to your favorite audio podcast. And if you're watching us, you've already found us on the ThunderCast YouTube channel, but we would like it if you'd hit that subscribe button and maybe share the links with your friends so we can continue to grow the listener base and reach even more Thundering Herd fans and bring you the content of the ThunderCast and ThunderCast Mobile and ThunderCast Live and the whole ThunderCast universe as we continue to expand. Russ, Jed, it was a really, really busy championship type week in herd athletics, and we're going to talk about a great big bunch of all that stuff. But you know, first we got to do what we got to do and keep paying the bills to keep the ThunderCast rolling along and bringing all the cool stuff that we try to bring to the listeners and the fans. So we have to get ourselves a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
Who do you call if you are ever hurt in a wreck? If you live anywhere in West Virginia, Ohio, or Kentucky, that's Leasure Oliver PLLC. You can find them at 304carwreck.com.
Now that the formalities are out of the way, we've got 5 things that we're going to talk about this week that every herd fan needs to know, and a mixed bag. We're even dipping back into the football bag this week, and I know folks are loving to hear about that. Spring practice has been cranked up. Some big happenings going on just today that made it into the episode, or going to make it into the episode just before the print deadline. So let's get ourselves, well, it's not a word from, it's 5 things every herd fan needs to know, brought to you by Ignite.link.
And now, here are at least 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite.link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team.
All right, Jed, we're going to kick it off this week with number 1, which is a unique kind of off-the-field thing that is one of those cool deals. Marshall partners with the Huntington's Kitchen to provide healthy cooking and nutrition tips, amongst other things, in classes for our student athletes. What do you got on that bad boy?
Yeah, man, I think this is a really cool thing. You know, Huntington's Kitchen came back, a few years. Well, it's been quite some time now. It was part of a reality TV show is where that ended up coming out of. But man, what a cool partnership, right? One of the things that we don't think about as much sometimes. You know, you think about the football players being in the weight room, making sure that they're getting fit and huge for the season. But nutrition is such a huge part of that. So teaching them, how to fuel themselves, what foods to eat, things like that. I mean, I think this is a really, really cool thing that they're doing. So I think it's pretty neat, man.
Hey, this is more than just nutrition for athletes. Now, granted, that's what this particular partnership is about. But, there's a couple of years ago, my wife and I just decided we were just going to start eating cleaner, and try to get rid of all the extra crap. And man, I didn't lift a weight. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but I don't really lift weights a lot. I didn't ever lift a weight. I wasn't doing things like push-ups or none of that stuff. So outside of my normal life, and Jen's normal life, all we did was change our eating habits a little bit. And over the course of a year, she lost 60 pounds and I lost like 25 pounds. And all we did was eat simple, clean meals. That's how big of a factor that nutrition can be in your lifestyle, right? And then when you talk about fine-tuned athletes that are built for competition, trying to reach the maximum potential of their individual bodies, nutrition is a massive part of the success of their on-field performance, injury prevention, things like that keep them healthy. This is a phenomenal partnership. And not only is it just cooking tips and nutrition tips and stuff I bet you they're going to learn how to make simple 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredient meals that fuel their body the way they need to and don't break the bank in trying to do it. And that's man, I remember what it was like to be a broke college kid.
Right.
You do too.
Absolutely.
So I think those are key, man. That's so key.
Yeah. Well, one of the things from the article, it does say that that the series is going to cover safe food prep, kitchen tools, meal prep strategy, balanced intake for athletes, nice skills even, which I find that kind of interesting. You put in knife skills but it's but I think that's really phenomenal, man. And you made a really good point. Nutrition is huge, especially for athletes like that, when they're, trying to, you said, get that best performance they can get, their peak physical shape, and they've got to get that performance. So very, very cool.
Yeah, this is a super cool partnership. Let's move on. Number 2, big time back on the field here. We're talking Diamond Sports. Marshall softball ranked 12th in the Softball America Mid-Major Top 25 and 15th in the D1 version of the same poll. So Morgan Zirkle's teams, both of them top 15 in 2 major mid-major polls. Softball is off and freaking running, living by the long ball.
Yeah, and Coach Zirkle has shown over the last few years her ability to field a really good team, be competitive, always be in the conversation. I know, you and Russ talk about all the time. You got mid-major, P5, G5, that kind of thing, but we don't always like those distinctions. But to amongst our peers to always be in that conversation, or generally be in that conversation, is huge. We want to put a winning product on the field, and that's what she's doing. So really cool to get the recognition that we're getting. And I think we're not done winning, Katie.
Absolutely not. We're not done winning. But let's dive into that just a tad bit, a little bit more, because this is Sunbelt softball, which is very high level softball, especially at the top half of the conference, right? So Zirkle's team is easily, in most conversations, a top 3, if not top 2 team in the Sunbelt right now. I mean, and she does things that strike a chord with Herd fans. She recruits local players. There's a lot of West Virginia talent on this roster. She was able to retain some high-performing talent from a year ago, which is, let's face it, that's hard to do at this level. So it speaks to the type of coach that she is, the coaching staff that she has in place, that players want to play for her and they want to play her brand of softball. It's really fun and entertaining. I don't think it's any accident that softball games are just really well attended all the time. They're fun to watch, and the proof is now finally in the pudding. They're a top 15 team in 2 major polls. But even though, we always make that distinction about mid-major and monikers and things like that, NIL is trickling down to these other sports. It's not just football, basketball, baseball, but it's trickling down farther and farther. So the teams that have the deepest pockets are allocating more and more funds to other programs, and softball's no different. So retaining talent is hard, and it's going to continue to get harder until the impossible happens and the playing field evens out a little bit. So to be right here, right now, is a great place to be. Now let's examine this once we get into the teeth of the Sun Belt Conference slate and see where when the rubber really meets the road and the games really, really matter a little bit more, will they be able to hold up? They're killing it in the circle right now. They're killing it at the plate right now. And defensively, they're doing wonderful things yet again. So not surprised.
Well, and they stacked their out of conference too. Earlier on in the season, I mean, you're playing ranked teams. I mean, ranked, not mid-major polls, but just nationally ranked teams. And we didn't come away from those games, the way that we wanted to. But when you're facing that stiff competition out of conference and you go into your stiff competition in conference, they're not padding the wins here. And so I think when the rubber meets the road, you're going to see a really competitive team in the Sun Belt.
I think if you would like to get a little insight about this team that we're seeing now in real time, you could go back and listen to the interview that I did with Morgan right before the start of the season. And I asked her about things about what style of play are they going to play and how does she decide how she wants to create the schedule like you're talking about. You want to be battle tested early, or do you want to try to stack a bunch of wins early? Like, what do you think is best? You get really, really good insight from Morgan about this team. And I'm telling you, what she says is what we are seeing right now. So if anybody knows this team intimately, you would think it's the head coach, and I'll be damned. She's right as rain. What she wanted to happen is happening. So really cool. I always appreciate our coaches being very candid with us when we have an opportunity to talk to them, and they don't just feed us coach speak. They give us like real meat and potatoes type stuff. And Morgan always does that. And I'm always appreciative of that. Let's go to number 3. We're talking football now. Herd received a commitment this week from an offensive lineman. Holden Griegers transfers to the Herd from American River Community College. Griegers is 6'7", 330-pound offensive lineman. He was listed as a freshman on the American River Community College roster last year. So that to me is always up in the air of how they will classify. I don't know if he's a redshirt junior or a redshirt freshman. Will he be a sophomore? Who knows? When he finds his way to the roster, we'll know for sure. But one thing you do know, 6'7", 330 is going to be able to get in the way of some people to protect your quarterbacks and open some holes for your running backs. We do know that.
Yeah, well, it's you need that big size. That always helps. It'll be interesting to see come. And this is I think a great time to put in a plug in for we've got a spring game coming up here not before too long. But it'll be very interesting to see some of these players play that we've brought in. But to see a guy like that, how fast he can move too. Can he move well as at that big size? And if you can, man, watch out. We talk about all the time, or you guys talk about all the time. You got to win that game in the trenches, and that the line can win you games, it can lose you games. And it's great to see these the recruiting coming in. Glad to see that Gibby's got another. He's got now another. Close to another year under his belt recruiting, getting more of his players in, and really, really good. It seems to just right on its face a really good addition.
Well, you need that, right? You have to have. You can never really have too many offensive linemen, especially ones that can play and that can contribute for you, because injuries will happen. And the easiest place to get exploited as a football team through injury is on the offensive line. If you can't block, you can't do anything. I don't care who is in the backfield for you. Your quarterbacks have to have time to pass. Your running backs have to have holes to run through. And if you can't do that, you're really fighting an uphill battle. And just looking at the roster from a year ago and looking at the class status of some of these offensive linemen, Marshall's losing a lot again for the second consecutive year. Of course, the great news is that Jalen Slappy returns, and your offensive line will always be anchored around Jalen Slappy as long as he's here. And but everywhere else is gonna fight for position, right? So you need guys that are gonna fight. And even if you don't make it into that starting 5, what is the starting 5? The first guys that take the first snap on the first play of the game.
Right.
Well, you could get subbed in on the second series. You need depth at offensive line. And at 6'7", 330 pounds, those guys just don't grow on trees. I'll take as many of them as we can get. Right.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving on. Number 4 for men's basketball. Ryan Nutter has announced he will be entering the transfer portal. He sat out the entire season this year under concussion protocols, but has finally been cleared to play again and has chosen to enter the portal. Thoughts on that? I have a second part to this one when you give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it would have been really interesting to see him play this year. I know in the previous year, he was a kid that obviously he plays really, really hard. I mean, he goes out and he hustles. Didn't put a lot of production up in his previous year, so it would have been interesting to see how he would have played this year. So we didn't get to see that. But I think this is this may be a good move for him. Always hate to see anybody leave, but understanding that sometimes, there's a better fit, or you feel as a student athlete, you've got a better fit potentially somewhere else. And maybe he saw that, maybe his playing time he wouldn't get as much playing time. I mean, you had a really good, starting five, and then, you had some good depth, maybe his playing time he saw or he thought wasn't, going to be as much in the coming up next year. It's hard to say. I mean, hate to see somebody go, but of course we always wish them the best of luck. But yeah, kind of just my initial thoughts on that.
I mean, I never get mad at really anybody that wants to transfer. And like, you do you, man. If you think that's what you need to do, then go do it. I can't get mad at that, because there's always that's a two-way street. People are transferring to Marshall, and I'm always excited when new players come to Marshall, and I'm not going to get mad when people decide to move on, because that means, again, a roster spot has opened up, and it's an opportunity to get better at a position. So I wish Mr. Nutter the best, and I'm with you. It would have been cool to see the development year over year and not have to set out an entire year and what that might have looked like for him in Kelly Green and White, but it just didn't happen. And maybe this is a situation where you just need a breath of fresh air, a fresh start, and something positive to build off of, right? So I wish him well. I hope he finds the spot and he can light it up and tear it up and has a great remainder of his collegiate career. The second part of that I want to talk about was yesterday. Junior guard / forward Shamari Huggy kind of strongly hinted that he may return to the Herd. He didn't give a definite, but the wording in the tweet was pretty positive that he may be returning to Marshall, which will be a big piece for Corny Jackson next year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. One of the issues that, I think a lot of coaches are dealing with this in basketball, especially at our level, is, you had to we brought in quite a few transfers. Our starting five included, you had only 2 returners in your starting five, from last year. And so, you're trying to build, team cohesion, the longer that these guys, play together, they're going to know where each other are going to be. They just it becomes instinctual of that play. And when you're trying to rebuild a team every single year with a bunch of new players, it's hard to build that team cohesion. So anytime you can bring somebody back who was productive or can be productive, and can grow and get better, and be a piece to that, then you're going to be better off, because you're not having to, okay, hey guys, all right, we got to figure this thing out, quickly. So yeah, if he comes back, I think that's positive. That's great. Anybody that we can retain after losing some of these guys that are going to be graduating, and already here's one transferring out with Ryan. That's great. So hopefully he sticks around.
Far too early to project any type of roster makeup for next year's team, because there will undoubtedly be more portal entries. There will, of course, be guys coming to the Herd because guys have exhausted eligibility and just can't return to play anymore. So it's far too early to project any type of roster at this point. I mean, good Lord, they were just eliminated from the tournament less than a week ago. So but basketball, unlike football, is a sport where if you get 2 guys, 3 guys, you can turn your entire season around year over year. So that's always the intriguing part. And, Corny has been able to go out and identify some guys and help him win some games. The problem is we can't really seem to get a full healthy season out of some of those guys, and it turns into being a real difference maker. And we saw that later in this season. They end up as the number 2 seed in the Sun Belt tournament, but we'll talk about how that one, of course, went down here in a little bit. Let's round out our top 5 or our 5 things this week. It's a true 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. Number 5, it is Herd Pro Day at Joan C. Edwards Stadium. We had 14 football players taking part in Marshall's Pro Day today. I'm going to run down and give you the list. You had 3 offensive linemen taking part today: Marcus Adams, Tyler McDuffie, and Eric Meeks. 4 DBs, Jadarius Green McKnight, Marvay Myers, Cam Smith, and Boogie Trotter. 3 linebackers, Kerryon Martin, Jalen Parker, and Zane Porter. Couple of wideouts, Floyd Lacey and Jacoby Baldwin. 1 running back in Tony Mathis, and 1 defensive lineman, Tyus Martin. 14 total guys taking part in Pro Day today. thoughts on Pro Day and thoughts on, I don't know, where we are right now with football.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I'm going to jump off topic just for a second and we talk about football, man. I'm already ready for the, and I know we're not ready yet because we haven't spring ball. I'm ready for the position group breakdowns. Man, it's such a popular series when you guys do that. I'm already looking forward to it because it's you got enough. You got to the end of the year, you were a little disappointed with how you felt like things should have been. And now enough time has elapsed where, okay, now we're getting into the spring. We're getting ready for some spring ball, and you get those football juices going, man. I'm already excited. So looking forward to it already. But yeah, man, it's anytime these guys get an opportunity to participate in Pro Day and get their shot, that's great. We want those. We want our guys to have the opportunities to hopefully play at the next level. We've luckily had some players over the last couple of years get that opportunity. It's just so I think it's a great opportunity for them, and I really do wish them the best, and I hope that they perform well enough and get that shot that they're looking for. So
yeah, Marshall's been pretty lucky here the past couple of years. You put a handful of guys in the NFL, and some of them are still sticking. Of course, Mike Green last year just did what Mike Green did in Pro Day, and landed up as a second-round draft pick last year. And year before, you put Rasheen Ali and Mike Abraham in the pros, and Rasheen is still in Baltimore. I saw just yesterday. This is a little not a thing, but a thing I'm going to talk about. The AFL team, or the Orlando Storm, right up the road from me here. They got 2 Marshall alums on their roster this year. One of them is Micah Abraham, and the other one is former Herd Great linebacker Tavante Beckett. So might try to take an opportunity to see if I can get up there to watch a Orlando Storm game sometime this season. I think it'll be pretty easy to stick out with some Kelly green on because their colors are like navy blue and orange. So I think I can make that happen and maybe get up there and see some of our guys play. But, you talk about Mike Green making a roster. You talk about Rasheen Ali making a roster. Dalton Tucker's playing offensive line for the Indianapolis Colts still. So the Herd has put some guys in the pros in recent years. And sometimes guys really show out at Pro Day. And it makes the difference between catching the eye of a scout and being a fringe guy and being a camp invite guy, from having no opportunity to an opportunity. And I don't know any player in the world that won't say, just give me an opportunity, right? Let at least give me let me see what I can do with it. And that's what Pro Day can mean for some of these guys. There are some guys that I think have a legitimate shot. You can't look me in the eye and tell me that like Floyd Lacey isn't electric enough to make a roster in the right circumstance, a team that can allow him to exploit his skill set. You can't tell me that there's not a secondary somewhere that can't benefit from having Cam Smith or Boogie Trotter as part of their secondary, and so some of these guys have an opportunity to really stick somewhere. And, of course, the NFL, like I said, it's not the only league. You got the CFL, you got the whatever I just said, where the Orlando Storm, those leagues. So getting eyeballs, getting things on tape is a big deal. It's a big, big deal. So I hope these guys all went out and showed out today. I got one more note on a note about Pro Day. I mentioned defensive lineman Tyus Martin. I did an interview with Tyus a couple of weeks ago, and been waiting to get a little closer to Pro Day. And I didn't know they were doing Pro Day today until I saw that they were doing Pro Day today. I thought I might see like 1 week till Pro Day, but no. So I was waiting to kind of put that out closer to Pro Day. So now we're going to get that put up for you guys so that you can see the interview with Tyus and talk about his football journey a little bit and being with the Herd and things like that. So really cool piece of content. We'll get that out to you guys here really soon. But Jed, that does it for 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. Any final words before we have Layer 1 take us around the Herd?
Yeah, no, man. I think it's so fitting for our first episode together. A true 5 things, a great 5 things, man. But yeah, let's go ahead and take it around the Herd, man.
All right, here we go.
And now, Layer 1 Solutions, your experts in business connectivity infrastructure, takes you around the Herd.
we're going to lead this off with tennis. They split the weekend up in New York, falling 4-0 to Columbia. But they bounced back with a 4-0 sweep of Wagner. So that now leaves the herd at 7-7 with one more non-conference match before league play. Thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't get mad at the out of conference, right? Because that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means something to the players, right? And I'm not trying to say it doesn't mean anything. It does, but we all know that conference is what matters. That's what you want to win. You're not going to get any trophies for winning the out of conference. So you want to focus on a Sun Belt Conference championship and making a run and beating your conference peers. And the Herd has been really successful in doing that over the past handful of years. And, they've lost some top tier talent past couple of years, some upperclassmen that graduated. But I always feel good as long as Johanna Strom is on the roster that Marshall is going to be competitive and win some points in a tennis match. And she's still on the roster along with some other very talented players. But for me, it's all about winning the Sun Belt. So that's what I look forward to. It's like, can Marshall get past James Madison this year? Can Marshall get past Old Dominion this year and really rise out of that really tight-knit group of three there to bring home a championship?
Yeah, and I think they've got an opportunity too. One of the things that came from that article was the coach said that it was quoted, said, "We are so close to breaking through." And you got that coming from your coach, man. I think that they see it. It's like this. There's probably just little tweaks, just a few little things, and then once those floodgates open, they're gonna off to the races, right? And what a better time than when you're starting Sun Belt play.
This is it. I mean, in tennis, by its very nature, it's a bounce here or a bounce there, right? I mean, that's really the game itself. So if you're right there, then that's the difference between a fault here or an ace here or a bounce there or this, that, and the other. Sooner or later, some of those are going to start bouncing your way. And that's when you start getting hot. You start playing with a little bit more confidence and you go on a run. And the next thing you know, you're on a, crash course with the other top teams for conference supremacy.
Well, all right, man, we're going to swing on over to men's golf next. Marshall men's golf will be back in action at the Sea Palms Invitational at Simons Island, Georgia. And that'll be running from Thursday through Saturday. So nothing really more to talk about there, I don't think, until we get some results. But here's another opportunity for golf to hopefully notch a win or at least be, kind of that top echelon. Moving on from there, KD, Russ and I talked about this last week. We're going to talk a little bit about this week. It's kind of crazy. We're talking about men's soccer next. We're here in the spring. These guys play in a spring league like they've been the last few years, and you get an opportunity to catch men's soccer at the Vet this Saturday at 3:30 against Dayton. I'll let you have your thoughts here in a second, but Russ and I talked a little bit last week about this, just how cool it is you get, men's soccer in the fall, you get men's soccer in the spring, you kind of get a taste for what the team's going to be like coming into next season. And, a really cool opportunity. I think I saw tickets were like $10 or something like that for the game. And I would encourage as many people as possible to go, but man, really excited to get these couple home games here coming up soon.
Yeah, dude, I get jacked for the spring league. Marshall's been in it for, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 years. We won it a couple of times, including last year. So we're defending spring league champions. And of course, it's a different roster in places than last year, but in Grassy, I trust, right? I mean,
build the statue.
Yeah. Like that's probably like the easiest thing to trust in all of Herd Athletics is that Chris Grassy is going to put a top tier competitive team onto the field to make a run at some sort of championship or couple of championships. And if we can go back to back in the spring league, great. But 3:30 on Saturday, get out to the Vet, man. That's an opportunity. Look, man, it's an opportunity to tailgate. Hey, that's what we're talking about. Football's getting out here. It's time to tailgate, right? So the spring league gives you a little opportunity to wet your whistle a little bit for men's soccer. You get a little tailgate action. You're starting to feel good about. You got to get that warm-up tailgate before you get to the spring game, the spring football game, because that's when you got to go full bore, and you better be ready. You can't be dusting off the tailgate clothes for spring game. So get out there Saturday and cheer on the herd and, knock a few back in some nice Huntington weather on Saturday.
I'll say this, man. I was pulling this just to verify, but we've had some. I mean, I know you're down in Florida, so it's warm all the time. But the weather
88 today.
It's 82 here.
Oh,
funny enough. It's like what's going on, man? But no, it's gonna be like sunny in the 60s Saturday. Man, it's gonna be
gorgeous.
Perfect day.
Gorgeous.
So yeah, go tailgate, watch a game. Kind of taking this new herd soccer team. So I'm excited. I plan on being there and taking my kids as long as I don't think we've got soccer this weekend, so that works out really well.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Well, we're going to take it on over to baseball. Man, we had a great weekend at home at the Jack. Won all 3 games, swept St. Bonaventure. 3 games, first score 5-4. Then took them to the cleaners 11-1, and then decided to absolutely knock the fire out of them in the last game, winning 25-2. Cool little tidbit from Saturday's game. Cleary Simpson hit a home run as his family was in from Canada to watch him play. So what a way to show out and show off for the family as they visited. So
that was awesome. What an awesome moment. God, travel all that way, and you're like, well, we're just gonna, check it out, check out the Jack, and see the home, the first home series. And good Lord, you're treated to an 11-1 game, which you think is really awesome anyway, and your kid hits a home run in that game. And well, I hope they stuck around for the Sunday game because my God. It was like the herd could not hit the ball. It was crazy, man. It seemed like every time I would get a update, we were out and about doing our family things on Sunday, and every time I would look and scroll and get an update on the game, I'm like, Jesus, they scored 8 more. Oh my God, they scored 5 more. Like, good Lord, they just couldn't not hit the ball. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, what a great way to have that home series and for them to come in and see that's awesome. Unfortunately, the guys went to Louisville, lost the first game 16-5. That was, as we record, that was yesterday, and then lost today 28-8. So struggling a little bit there in Louisville. But let's go ahead and talk about that, and then we'll talk about the upcoming games.
Louisville couldn't not hit the ball today.
It's their turn.
That's about all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Moving on, they'll have their first conference game this weekend against Georgia State at home. That'll be Friday at 6, Saturday at 4, and then Sunday at 1. Then they get a cool opportunity to travel to Lexington next Tuesday, and they'll be playing Kentucky.
Okay,
2 o'clock.
So focused on the weekend series. Let's get out to the SBC schedule. 1-0, well, 3-0, but 1-0. Let's win us a series here. Looking, definitely you want to try to sweep this series. You got to get wins where you can get them, especially in the Sun Belt Conference. Year over year, I'm going to reference back to when I did the interview with Bills and we talked about what baseball might look like this year. And wouldn't you know it, he was also right as rain about some of the guys that he thought were going to have big step up years. And some of these youngsters in particular, like some of the guys we knew were going to have great years. They're like Ethan Murdoch and Havrilla's going to have a great game or a great year. But some of these youngsters that were vying for playing time and now they're getting it, like young Coop Henson, having a great or young season in his sophomore campaign. But now the rubber again meets the road. It's SBC time. The gauntlet is going to start. At some point, you're going to have to play Coastal. At some point, you're going to have to play, Troy and Southern Miss and Old Dominion and all these teams that are historically really strong in baseball. So you got to get wins where you can get wins. And you want to get them right now, early, often. So we're looking for a weekend sweep against Georgia State. I don't care about Kentucky, right? Like that's a midweek tune-up, stay warm. You want to win it, great. Okay, we're focused on the weekend series right now. So let's go out and put Harlow out on Friday, Blevins out on Saturday, and maybe Miller. Well, I don't know if maybe Miller's not pitching right now. Maybe Moak. I don't know. Whoever's their Sunday guy. Let's go out and go 3-0 against Georgia State, and then we'll worry about that midweek tune-up.
Yep, there you go, man. And like you mentioned before during the 5 things, we're playing in the Sun Belt Conference. I mean, there's going to be at least one, if not two, ranked teams in this conference year in, year out. So if we can go and compete in this conference and do well, I mean, we're really doing something. So this weekend is that's an important game. Well, we're going to keep it on the diamond with softball. They swept their opening weekend games at the dot, going 4-0 against Akron, and then against Canisius 6-0. And I do need to make a little side note here. So I'm reading a little bit, I'm reading from Russ's notes. Last week I butchered Canisius and the Around the Herd, and he's got it the pronunciation.
Yeah, he did like the media guide pronunciation.
100% that was for me. So I wouldn't butcher it again. So Russ, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'll just butcher somebody else, something else later on. But both on Friday, and then Akron 4-0 on Saturday, and Canisius again 7-1 on Sunday. So they gave up only 2 runs on the weekend, with the second run being unearned and coming with 2 outs in the last inning. Like, just dominated this last weekend, man.
Yeah, building up to that, right? The opening weekend at the dot, they were building up to that, and they wanted to, have a great crowd and put on a show, and they really put on a show. I mean, wow, 4-0 to start the home slate, only allowing 2 runs, one in the first game of the series of the weekend, and one in the last game of the weekend. Look, man, I mentioned this earlier on when we were talking about them being top 15 in 2 separate polls. They're doing it everywhere. They're doing it at the plate. They're really doing it well in the circle. I mean, our pitchers are doing phenomenally well right now, especially Paige Maynard. Earlier today, named a top 10 D1 pitcher. That did not make the show notes here, but I don't know if you saw that. About 4 or 5 hours ago, softball team tweeted that out. Paige Maynard's a top 10 D1 pitcher. She has been dealing all season long. She is in the freaking zone right now. And, not to be outdone, Marshall has Jules King pitching at a high level, Beals pitching pretty well. Like, there's just a lot of talent that is stacked on this roster. They're hitting home runs in bunches. They're pitching lights out right now. Defense is pretty tight right now. I mean, you're hard to find a weak spot, a consistent weak spot on this roster, on this team. Zerk's got them dialed in right now in this early season. Now, again, like we mentioned before, it's about to be SBC season, and that's really, really what matters. All of these out-of-conference wins are great. You start learning who you are, but now you're going to have to figure out who you are against your peer opponents, and that's really what matters.
Yeah. And they get that opportunity this weekend. They're going to be traveling to Georgia State for a series. That will be Friday at 6, Saturday at 3, and then Sunday at noon. And then after that, they'll travel to Radford for a doubleheader on Tuesday at 2 and 4 p.m. So
yeah,
good opportunity this weekend to.
Well, you got to have them. You got to have them. That's what I mean. Like, these are nothing against Georgia State. Right? I'm not trying to drag them on the baseball side or the softball side. But, like, we're here to win games. We're not here to be, like, buddies. We're here to win games. And you got to take wins where you can get them. They might be ridiculously talented. Hell, we might run into a buzzsaw and they put up 30. Who knows what will happen? But I'm saying, you go into these games looking for a sweep on the road to make an early statement. And, like, okay, Marshall was just not an out-of-conference show pony. They're here to play SBC ball, right? And that's what I care about. I care about that. And I care about getting over the hump if we can get over that hump. I mean, Morgan and this Herd team accomplished some big things last year, some big things last year. And it had a lot of momentum going into the off season. Mm-hmm. So there were some departures from the roster, some new additions to the roster. And she was able to retain some of the most electric, if not the most electric player in the Sun Belt in Diamond Leslie. I mean, I couldn't believe it, but again, it just goes to show you these players want to play for a coach like Zerk. And, I think they obviously have the talent. They obviously have the rotation in the circle to make some noise this year. You know, I'm not going to say it's their year and they're going to win it all, but it wouldn't surprise me. I'll tell you what, I won't expect them to fall off a cliff and not win a game. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is very, very talented. I can't crown them champs because they haven't won anything. Let's be honest. We haven't won anything. You know, came close a couple years back, but didn't win anything. But man, they're making a strong case for somebody you got to circle on the calendar if you're an opponent this year. Don't look past the herd.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking forward to this first opportunity in conference to notch those wins. Like you said, those are important. You need to start racking up those and competing against our in-conference foes like we've been against the out-of-conference. We're going to go ahead and take it over to round ball. Women's basketball. I just lost their – well, we'll get through it, then we'll discuss it. But if you've followed anything with basketball, you know that they lost their Sun Belt tournament game to number 12 ranked in our conference, South Alabama, 73-58. Thoughts on that game?
Yeah, that was disappointing, obviously. I mean, to lose to the number 12 team who was just in a bit of a pickle in the game before with Coastal Carolina and a brouhaha that broke out and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, but that's the age-old question. It's like, all right, is it better to be a high seed and get that rest, or is it better to be like a mid to low seed and have a game or two going so that you're still in the groove of playing games and whatever? You know, it bit both of our teams this year. Let's put it that way. It bit both of the basketball teams this year having those early buys. But 73-58, a 15-point loss to the number 12 seeded South Alabama team. Did not see that coming, you know. As disappointing as it was this season or in this tournament tournament game, I think we have answered some questions about this program. And more importantly for me, I think that it showed that we may have hired the right coach. Julie Fulks can get some talent into Huntington. And it is – I feel good about that. As bad as this game went, those games are going to happen. I'm not making excuses. It sucks. I expected to win. I expected to at least win one game in the tournament. But I feel really good about the future of Herd women's basketball under Julie Fulks. She can find some talent, man, and she'll bring it here, and you know that they'll be exciting. I mean, let's. You don't really have to look any farther than Tamaya Lewis Utsi. God, I'll get it. That's a tongue twister. Tamaya Lewis Utsi. She's SBC Newcomer of the Year, you know? So first year in the league, she wins Newcomer of the Year. That's a Fulks recruit. You know what I mean? I wish we had her for another year, obviously. Julie's going to have to really replace some talent. Some seniors are leaving. Some one-year players are leaving. But aside from this tournament loss, I feel really good about the future of Herd women's basketball. To me, that's the bigger story.
Yeah, it's it's a team, and again, this kind of leads me to my disappointment as well, is because there was some really cool things about this season with some really cool players, but also, you know, we finished with a 23-9 record, 23 wins. It's the third most in a single season in program history. Mm-hmm. So you've got one of your most winningest seasons for women's basketball, that's the notch of the positive, right? That's you know, Fulks year two, you know, putting in those many wins is fantastic. You know, to the disappointing side is, I would have loved to see us at least win a game or two, or even be in contention for the Sun Belt Championship. And this team showed this entire year that if they're on, you know, they could beat any team in the Sun Belt. So unfortunate that they went out the way that they did. But I'll second what you said. I mean, the program's going in a positive direction, and that's what you want to see. You want to see that continuation, that positive direction, and then, you know, year 3 next year. I mean, let's make a run for that Sun Belt title. And I know that's what those girls want. That's what, you know, Coach Fulks wants. You know, so let's let's continue to support this program and see where this goes next year.
So before you go over to the men's side of things, let me drive one more thing home, because, you know, we talked about from 2 years ago and Kim Caldwell and that team, and geez, that team, right? And then she takes the job in Tennessee, and then you're tasked with being the coach after that coach. That's a lot of pressure, because the the floor of the program had been raised. Expectations were raised exponentially by fans and the admins, and because now it was proven that you could win at that level at Marshall in this era. And Julie Folks gets the job. She comes from Transylvania, out just outside of Lexington, where she had this gaudy record. And everybody's like, all right, is that going to translate? That's D3 stuff. Is it going to translate here? But it's a really short memory. You're like, well, wait a minute. We just got Kim Caldwell from Glenville State, and that was D2, and that translated. So, but it was an exodus of sorts. Coach Kim left, some players portaled out. To her credit, Julie was able to retain several important pieces, namely Peyton Hilderton, Meredith Mayer, right, remained to play for her. And they had great seasons for her for 2 years. And now seniors outgoing, we won't get those girls back, but it's a testament of the coach. She was able to re-recruit her players when it would have been really easy to go, I don't want to do a rebuild type thing. I'm out of here. And they had a so successful season a year ago. And then they stayed again. And you see what you put a few more pieces around them. You get players like Lewis Utsi to come in, and now boom, they're a 23-9 team. You can have the feelings of how you think the program is going or not. I feel really good about Julie Folks.
Yeah,
I do. So the pressure will be back on because you've got at least 3 big players that you have. At least 3 big-time contributing players. There will be more, but the pressure is back on to re-recruit a team and recruit a team to be competitive again in the Sun Belt in 26,
right.
27.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the expectation has been raised. Like you said, the floor was raised, and I think she understands that. And I think this year proved that, because we've talked about this before on and off camera is, you're talking, like players like a couple of these players, played for 3 coaches over the course of their collegiate career. And it's hard to go from, an outgoing coach to then just a 1-year coach who did really, really well, but then is in and out 1 year. And then now, your Coach Folks coming in and, you're the 3rd coach in 3 years, and you're going to have to try to, make your mark on this program, recruit, the players you need to recruit, and, put in the style that you're going to put in. And again, disappointing how the tournament went, but, she's shown that, she's got the capability. She's got, she's proved it. She can bring this program back up with a 23-win season, even with a disappointing exit. 23 wins, no matter what level of basketball you're at, is a very difficult thing to do.
And of course, the question mark now is you got to figure out a way to get it done in the postseason. That's the question. You can do it in the regular season. You're showing that. Mm-hmm. Now you got to figure out how to answer that question. How do we do it in the postseason? Make a run, get to an NCAA tournament, get to an NIT, whatever you got to do, but you got to kind of take that next step.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're at.
And that's the expectation, I think, for next year is, you've got to be able to put that together. At the end of the day, we want to win those games so we can get the higher seed. But at the end of the day, you've got to win those. Those are the games that matter.
Yep.
At the end of the day. So, well, we're just going to shift on over to men's basketball. Suffered the same fate, or a similar fate rather, that their women counterpart did. Lost their semifinal game to Georgia Southern, 82-78. A couple things to note, Katie, and then I'll send it your way. Is we've been missing Matt Van Komen. He's been injured for quite some time now. And I think it was rumored that he wasn't there. He wasn't able to come back. Noah Schutte, man, what a contributor to this team, and he's out due to illness. And then Eric Harding was playing with a brace, cast on his wrist, and he's now going to be having to have surgery. And then there were several other players that played that were coming off that illness that Schutte had. So, you're talking about a team that's been a bit decimated going into the tournament. Put up, I thought, a really, really good fight against Georgia Southern. Just weren't, they just weren't able to bring it home. But your thoughts on that?
So a couple of things about that. Number one, Georgia Southern was freaking red hot in that tournament. 5 wins in 5 days is what they were trying to do, and they just kept winning. And they had already swept the herd in the regular season. Actually, no matter who we would have faced in that game would have swept the herd in the regular season. So, you weren't really feeling good about that angle of things. But they just had no answer for Spud Webb. None whatsoever. I mean, dude put up 30. You know what I mean? Like, that's not supposed to happen in tournament basketball. But he did it. He was doing it all tournament long. So it wasn't just a one-off type thing and he was playing out of his mind. He was having a really, really great tournament. But still, you can't get all these tiebreakers go your way, land as the number 2 seed, get a bye all the way to the semifinals. So you got to win 2 games to win a championship. Yeah. 2 games to go to the NCAA tournament. That's all you got to do. I'm not saying it was easy, but you got to win 2. The other team had to win 5, right? Troy Trojans obviously end up getting the auto bid and winning the Sun Belt. They were the number 1 seed. So they had to win 2 games. Disappointing is probably an understatement. I get it. You're without Van Komen, huge part of your game down low. And Georgia Southern absolutely owned the offensive glass in that game. Absolutely owned it. They had something like 14, 15 offensive rebounds in that game. I don't know, like a dozen second chance points. I mean, those are statistics that will lose you a game. Obviously, you lost by 4. You know, so even if you're able to pick up a handful of those that were offensive rebounds, if you're able to pick up a few of those and they don't get 11, 12 second chance points, if they only get 8 second chance points, I mean, you can't just go, well, that's 4 less, so that's a tie game. Obviously, the game plays out differently, but these are stats that matter, you know? Yeah. So they just didn't have an answer for the offensive glass. Georgia Southern was dominating it. And you just can't, you got to show up to, I don't know. I think they were trying. I think it seemed like Corny's game plan was to tire these guys out, not our guys, but their guys. Because think of it, 4 games, 4 days, whatever. They're tired. So his game plan, it felt like, was to make them tired and see if they could run away with the game late. The problem was Spud Webb just couldn't miss the damn basketball. He just couldn't miss. So they had no answer for that. The Herd shot fairly well. I mean, it's not like they were having a rough shooting night. It was a good shooting night. They just didn't do enough. And then you can talk about the illness. You're missing another major contributor. You're missing your big guy down low. I mean, that's where those things start to creep in. That's the difference in a tight game loss and a potential tight game win. It just sucked, but it was disappointing. It was just disappointing. Everybody was really high on getting the number 2 seed and then eliminated out. So this is the same question, right? It's the same question for Corny as you got for Julie. It's like, all right, you can win some games in the regular season. You can show you can get a high seed. Corny can show he can get the number 2 seed. Now, how are you going to win these tournament games? Because you got to find a way to get back to an NCAA tournament. You've got to find a way to get another revenue share, right? Like everybody in the SBC is going to get a share because Troy's going, right? But they're going to get more than everybody else because they're the team going. That's what we have to do. That's why you have to make these tournaments. And in the, fiscally speaking, you need every dollar that you can get to compete. So you have to win these tournament games. You have to be able to get into the postseason. You have to be able to secure the money that comes along with those things. And the difference in a game can be this much. We got to figure out a way to get this much. That's kind of what it boils down to me.
Yeah, man. It's I'm with you. It's definitely disappointing, especially with the talent that we had. Mm-hmm. And we showed that we didn't show it against Georgia Southern in any of the games that we played, but we showed it against other teams that we had a team that was capable of winning. When you got that number 2 seed, it was like, okay, 2 games. I'll be honest, I dreaded the fact that we were probably going to get either Georgia Southern or Coastal.
Right.
Both teams that seemed to have our number for whatever reason. But I liked our odds against Troy. We figured we'd be playing Troy if we had won that game. I liked our odds against that. I mean, there was not a team in the conference that was a dominating team. There wasn't a team that was like, hey, they're just going to come through, sweep through the conference and win. It was anyone's for the taking. I think we had the inside track to do that, and we weren't able to pull it off. I think Corny's game plan was, I think it was the right game plan. You take a team that's, they're on their 5th game in 5 days, you run them down. And as we saw, they weren't as effective scoring on us as they had been, even though Spud Webb was just shooting lights out. They still weren't as effective putting the number of points. I think the first game they played with us, they well into the 100. They went over 100. 90 something, I think, in the next game against us at our house. But in this game, it just didn't go as much because I think we're wearing them out. It's just you've got to figure out, and this plagued us all year. You got to figure out how to win those close games. How to clutch up, and we did that some, but we didn't do it in the games that really mattered in this game, especially. So, Coach Jackson, just like Julie Folks, has his work cut out for him in the offseason. Unfortunately, he's probably going to have to recruit players that are still here, and to keep them here. We want to keep them, and then go out and fill in the pieces that are going to be missing with these guys that were graduating. So, I think he can do it. I think it's the Sun Belt is a conference that we can run. We can compete, and we should, and we could and should win, and make it back to the NCAA tournament. We don't want that drought that we had, between that 2018 season or then 30 years. That drought again. Yeah, we've got to be, and especially in this conference, with the coaching, the staff that we have, the recruiting. I mean, this is a league that we should be in that contention consistently, and then winning it, more often than what we have been. So,
Sun Belt basketball, nobody's going to say it's a national powerhouse, and I think that's why you feel like we should be competing for a championship every year, because you're not playing Duke, you're not playing North Carolina, right? You're playing teams that you should be able to beat. And as evidence to your point, nobody's coming in and running roughshod through the conference. It was a freaking 5-way tie or something for first place, and as it came down to tiebreakers. So that tells you that there's a whole lot of teams clumped together right there. And you just got to find a way to win those games, 1 or 2 games, and you're sitting alone atop the standings. If there's a 5-way tie, you win one more game, you're all alone atop the standings. I will say this: there's a nice young nucleus of players that if Coach Jackson is able to retain, it's a great, great foundation to be able to put some role players, some pieces by. And if he can really get a couple of big men this time, I mean, think about this. I was just thinking about this while you were talking. Think about if Nate Martin had one more year and he was able to be on this roster, with Van Komen and how what that might have looked like. So Courtney's had good success finding big men and productive big men. It would be great if he could find 2. You know what I mean? So that it all doesn't fall on one guy to have to stay healthy. And if an injury happens and you're like, well, now what are we going to do? But there is a nice young nucleus of players there for him to build around if he's able to retain all those guys. That will remain to be seen. But as always, I'm hopeful. I like Corny Jackson as a guy, as a coach. He's from my era. He's a MAC era guy, That's always going to be near and dear to my heart. But I'm pulling for him, as every Herd fan is pulling for him. But let's see if we can get over the hump, Let's get over the hump. Let's get a 20-win season. Let's start notching those type of things. So damn close, yet so far away, Anyway, you got any final words before we look to close this one out?
Yeah, no, man, that's all I've got. That wraps up the around the Herd segment, and unless you got other final thoughts, man, I'm good.
Well, about the only thing I'm going to say is something you nodded at earlier, and we kind of joked about when we were talking about Spring League Soccer, is let's remind everybody that spring football game is coming up really, really soon. April 11th? Is that what it is? Let me look. April 11th. Saturday, April 11th. Get ready. You got a month. To get your plans in order. Tickets are always cheap. They're usually like $5. Get a couple, get some buddies together, pop for a couple parking spots. We're going to be out there having a great time, hopefully tailgating really big. It'll be the start of like really getting into football. We got our fix from recruiting at the end of the football season, and that keeps everybody jazzed up. And now we got spring football that we can look at notes from them, practice reports, and we still get a little bit of recruiting trickling in there like this past week, but spring football game is really the kickoff, and then we start getting into position group breakdowns, and then we start talking about games, and before you know it, we're playing them. So make your plans now. You got a month. April 11th, Saturday. Get some tickets when they put them on sale. Pop for a parking spot this year. What's it, $20 maybe? A couple of buddies, couple of spots, handful of tickets. Come out. You ain't even got to bring anything to eat. You can come hang out with us and eat. That's why we exist, man, to do these tailgates for fans and stuff. So make your plans now. I hope to see all you. I'm making the flight. I've got my flight booked. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. Being in town, walking inside Joan C. Edwards Stadium is always like soul cleansing for me. You guys that are lucky enough to do it each and every week during football season, I hope you know how good you got it. But for me, it's a weird feeling of like truly being home. I know that's weird. It's a football stadium, but it's like truly being home when I get to come home and tailgate, see you guys, have a good time, meet people, talk, cut up a little bit, and then go watch the herd. I hope to see all of you there. Tony Gibson wanted 10K last year, and we got him 10K. Let's get him 12 this year.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, there's no excuse for it, really. I mean, if we can put 25,000 people in there for a game, I don't see why we can't get at least close to half that.
I mean, damn, man, 1,000 people ought to show up just to eat the good food that we're hopefully be cranking out on Saturday. I mean,
exactly.
We do it. If you have not been to a ThunderCast tailgate for spring game weekend, this is the year you should do that. All that we obviously ask is that you bring whatever it is that you enjoy drinking, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, or whatever. But by and large, we try to bring the good food. And if you've never done it before, you are always amongst friends at ThunderCast tailgates. You're always welcome. So come by and see us. Say what's up. Grab a plate. Chill for a little bit. But if you got nothing else, take us out of here.
Oh, me taking us out of here.
Yeah.
Man, that's well, tag on. Well, whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Dot, or whether you see us April 11th at Joan C. Edwards Stadium, ready for some football, wherever you see us, we're going to be saying, go herd.
Go herd. That's the ThunderCast. I couldn't have done it any better myself. We'll see you next week. Later.